Tempestus scions, and the commissars that lend discipline to their ranks, undergo the same exhaustive training regimen within the Schola Progenium, yet they fulfill very different and highly specialized roles in battle. Whereas scions comply with orders without fail, commissars provide leadership and ensure that the Imperium's commands are enacted dutifully. The halls of the Schola Progenium are not filled with the dregs of forgotten hive cities, nor do these ancient imperial facilities flood assigned war zones with the sort of rank and file chaff commonly seen amongst the ranks of the Astra Militarum. Instead, the Schola Progenium takes in the many orphaned children of high-born imperial citizens. These noble scions may include those left behind by a planetary governor, whose term is brought short by some cruel Xenos incursion, or even the sons of a high-ranking commander who has gloriously sacrificed his life for the good of the Imperium. The progeny of such individuals represent a fine stock of potential heroes. Consequently, they are not to be wasted. Upon being orphaned, these children are distributed to the nearest establishment world that harbors a Schola Progenium training camp. There, the orphans are processed and trained to become the very peak of human efficiency. Shock assault troops without peer, Tempestus scions are elite soldiers used to enact missions that the regular Imperial Guard cannot accomplish alone. Scions have undergone a brutally uncompromising training regime and are armed with some of the best weaponry available to the Astra Militarum. Their violent potential is enhanced by rigid discipline, so that the dictates of their superiors are enacted swiftly and accurately, regardless of how inhuman such orders may seem. Scions are trained to ensure that commands are carried out with a merciless pragmatism. Moreover, their indoctrinated sense of obedience and duty overrides any instincts of personal safety. No matter what the foe or the challenge, no matter how catastrophic the situation, Tempestus scions will stop at nothing to fulfill their orders. They are fully prepared to sacrifice their own lives in the process, so long as it sees their mission completed. These indomitable warriors depend upon their commanders like a lasgun depends upon a trigger. Those among their number who show exceptional qualities in battle may rise to the rank of Tempestor or Tempestor Prime, where they give orders as well as follow them, ensuring that there is never a break in the chain of command. Having committed to memory thousands of military doctrines learned in the Schola Progenium, a Tempestor Prime is able to guide their squads on the ground, effortlessly processing those split-second battlefield decisions that can mean the difference between success and failure. Their efficiency often provides the opportunity for a vital assault or maneuver that can push defeat into victory. Even a few squads of Tempestus scions precisely deployed can change the course of a war before many regular regiments have even tied their bootlaces. From standing firm against ravenous tyrannid swarms to striking fast against the horrors of a rising tomb world, Tempestus scions are unyielding in the prosecution of their goals. These elite warriors may hurl themselves from the ramps of low-flying Valkyries, plunging through smoke-filled skies with grav chutes, or they might infiltrate behind enemy lines to neutralize the foe's reinforcements before the threat is fully realized. Riding aboard Taurox Primes, Tempestus scions are able to strike into the most inhospitable of war zones. They can traverse all kinds of terrain in order to rescue planetary officials from the midst of a raid. Such is their unwavering loyalty that some scions are deemed worthy to be assigned as temporary honor guards for imperial officers. On occasion, they have even been selected to escort inquisitors to and from the black ships. As a consequence of the Tempestus scions' reputation for glorious conduct in battle, the common soldiery of the Imperial Guard often resents or even loathes them. Some of the more ill-disciplined rank and file may exhibit a dangerous insouciance towards orders and regularly indulge in raucous mess hall antics, so the scions' unequivocal servitude and absolutism does not endear them to their comrades. In fact, the average Imperial Guardsman sees them as little more than overprivileged bully boys with their mag boots on the throats of good, honest soldiers. That Tempestus scions remain oblivious to such mutterings may be mistaken for arrogance. However, the truth is that they are simply indifferent to the opinions of the common soldiery, so long as their missions are successful, and they are not kept idle long between deployments. When they are dropped into a war zone, these warriors take to war with equipment every bit as specialized as they are. Garbed in Baroque carapace armor with molded plates of armorplate and ceramite that almost entirely cover them, scions are better able to endure the rigors of battle. The hotshot weaponry of the Militarum Tempestus lights up enemy bunkers, and their pinpoint fire rips through Xenos hides and sears through armor alike. These scalding red lasers and the greenish glow of visual augmenters cutting through smoke-filled corridors are often the enemy's first clues that their defenses have been breached. Though for many Tempestus scions, a parade beret will suffice, when a unit fights in particularly inhospitable climates, they will opt for masked helmets through which nutrient gruel and oxygen can be piped. Since they rarely experience times of rest between missions, Tempestus scions take with them the means to sustain themselves. Those who have remained plugged into their masked helmets can go for days without needing additional nutrition or sleep. They simply stand side by side on their transport between missions in a sort of trance, dormant yet ever alert. Their superiors do not encourage reliance upon these techniques for too long, for in some instances this lack of real sleep can lead to a dependency upon their equipment that can hinder discipline. In extreme cases, such weakness can lead to them being removed from their regiment entirely. Tempestus scions that have been elevated to the rank of Tempesta Prime may be rewarded with a regimental greatcoat, an item usually associated with commissars, as an indicator of their shared heritage and the position of command. In addition to this, they carry a skull-crested staff known as a canna militarum. These honours of the Schola Progenium are only issued to warriors of true distinction. No matter how contradictory or outright suicidal the orders of the administratum may seem, it is paramount that such instructions are followed when issued. There is no leniency in the fight for humanity's survival, and no allowance for second-guessing what may be at stake should these high-level stratagems be ignored. It may seem nonsensical for troops to leave hostages held within a compound behind, but if dormant necrons lie beneath the surface, then it is better that those captives are left to die than to risk disturbing a greater foe. Likewise, orders to purge a defenseless civilian freighter may seem barbaric, but if doing so will prevent the spread of plague or heresy, then such a mission is crucial. It is for good reason that imperial citizens are told that they should never question the greater wisdom of those above them, even when it goes against their instincts. Individuals of a particularly stern nature are required to enforce such orders and bring any local customs or short-sighted officers who obstruct them into swift compliance. It may be illegal on certain worlds to take up arms on Emperor Day, for instance, but if the Segmentum Command issues orders to mobilize for war, then an uncompromising figure is deployed to ensure that war happens. Such individuals serve as blunt political tools of the Imperium. They must be efficient and merciless, prepared to kill naysayers, even senior officers, in a heartbeat, so that the orders of the administratum are carried out. These remorseless enforcers of the imperial creed are known as commissars, and they are overseen and deployed by the officio prefectus. Wearing an aquila emblazoned peaked cap, a long leather coat with epaulets, and an instantly recognizable black uniform with red and gold trim, a commissar stands apart from their subordinates, as an executioner stands apart from a crowd of peasants. Marching to war often with only a bolt pistol and sword in their hands, they are a constant reminder that weaponry is no substitute for exceptional bravery, zeal, and martial pride. It is also a commissar's duty to inspire the men around him, leading by example with bolt pistol flaring and sword carving through the enemy ranks. A commissar is always willing to show what the best blood in the Imperium is capable of, when his deeds will rouse the lower orders into action, often expending far more of his ammunition than those individual soldiers who follow him. A commissar's uncompromising code of law ensures discipline. As such, regiments to which a commissar is assigned become far more robust and coherent formations. When soldiers falter, a commissar ensures they do not flee. Where they are weak, a commissar renews their strength. But where soldiers show cowardice, a commissar will make examples of them without hesitation. Earning his men's grudging respect, a commissar transforms ordinary troopers into superior fighting machines. Thank you so much for watching. If you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It really does make a difference. We continue. When this iron determination and tactical autonomy are wedded to the Tempestus scions' specialist abilities and lauded martial discipline, the resultant formations are dependable beyond all reasonable expectation. Having trained and developed in the same environment, each is aware of the other's strengths and will instinctively respond the same way in a firefight. The scions of the Militarum Tempestus have a proud reputation for remaining steadfast in the face of death, but with a commissar amongst their ranks they will fight to the last man. The Schola Progenium is a widespread imperial institution with ancient training facilities distributed somewhat thinly around the galaxy, built into the bedrock of planets with strong connections to Terra and the Adeptus Ministorum. Though a subdivision of the ecclesiarchy oversees the distribution of new cadets, each Schola Progenium's graduates, known as progena, go on to serve many different appendages of the Imperium. Within the training camps, most join the ranks of the Militarum Tempestus, or Officio Prefectus, while some daughters may be chosen to serve in the Adepta Sororitas, and potential psychers are rooted out and sent to the black ships. Those who show particularly ardent faith may join the Adeptus Ministorum itself. A very few select orphans may find their fate is to be recruited into the Inquisition, or be whisked away to train under the shadowy auspices of the Officio Assassinorum. Schola Progeniums have little interaction with the outside world, and are most commonly found in isolated regions. Their great cathedral-like facades jut out from remote mountaintops or ravines, while a few of the most prestigious are surrounded by moats of bubbling lava. Time-ravaged gargoyles loom over any who approach their vast iron gates, and sentries patrol their crenellated walls, as much to stop cadets from escaping as to keep unwanted visitors from gaining access. Yet tucked away behind these vast Baroque walls, Schola Progeniums contain mostly drab, slab-sided buildings, the layouts of which all follow a similar template. By design, the insides of Schola Progeniums are not places to be admired. Indeed, their inductees are expected to loathe every moment they spend in them. Inside each Schola Progenium facility, servitors whir along the sparse ferrocrete hallways, constantly monitoring the progress of cadets. Recorded hollow images are relayed back to the chambers of the drill abbots, the hammer-wielding ecclesiarchy officials who oversee each training camp and who are responsible for the progress of new recruits. Auto-rhetorical servo-skulls incessantly babble the orders of the hour, issuing cadets with harsh commands, instructions, and inspiring stories of imperial heroes. Within these halls, new cadets are tested and interrogated by dark-robed clerics who search incessantly for any signs of spiritual weakness or corruption. While every cadet sleeps, servo-skulls monitor their slightest eye twitch for signs of seditious dreams. Should any foul utterances be heard within range of the drill abbot's surveillance network, those cadets are swiftly ushered into nearby chambers to endure punishment vigils. Within hangar-sized auditoriums, cadets are lectured on imperial languages and history. Thousands of cadets sit in rows of desks, scrawling down the litanies or tactics bellowed from roving voxcasters. When they are not either learning by rote there, or undergoing basic combat drills in high-walled courtyards, cadets study further within cathedral-sized librariums. A cadet's every waking hour is filled with memorization of Holy Scripture, strategy implementation exercises, the practical testing of theoretical tactical formulae, and brutal physical tests of skill and endurance. Even when they are allowed to sleep, subliminal reconditioning treatments take place. Certainly, Schola Progenium training camps are miserable places for a cadet to spend their young life, but this relentless hardship is administered with good reason. Once a cadet has endured the rigors of one of these training camps, they will be clad in mental armor as well as physical when they fight the horrors of the wider galaxy. Yet tucked away behind these vast Baroque walls, Schola Progeniums contain mostly drab, slab-sided buildings, the layouts of which all follow a similar template. By design, the insides of Schola Progeniums are not places to be admired. Indeed, their inductees are expected to loathe every moment they spend in them. Inside each Schola Progenium facility, servitors whir along the sparse ferrocrete hallways, constantly monitoring the progress of cadets. Recorded hollow images are relayed back to the chambers of the drill abbots, the hammer-wielding ecclesiarchy officials who oversee each training camp and who are responsible for the progress of new recruits. Auto-rhetorical servo-skulls incessantly babble the orders of the hour, issuing cadets with harsh commands, instructions, and inspiring stories of imperial heroes. Within these halls, new cadets are tested and interrogated by dark-robed clerics who search incessantly for any signs of spiritual weakness or corruption. While every cadet sleeps, servo skulls monitor their slightest eye twitch for signs of seditious dreams. Should any foul utterances be heard within range of the drill abbot's surveillance network, those cadets are swiftly ushered into nearby chambers to endure punishment vigils. Within hangar-sized auditoriums, cadets are lectured on imperial languages and history. Thousands of cadets sit in rows of desks, scrawling down the litanies or tactics bellowed from roving voxcasters. When they are not either learning by rote there, or undergoing basic combat drills in high-walled courtyards, cadets study further within cathedral-sized librariums. A cadet's every waking hour is filled with memorization of Holy Scripture, strategy implementation exercises, the practical testing of theoretical tactical formulae, and brutal physical tests of skill and endurance. Even when they are allowed to sleep, subliminal reconditioning treatments take place. Certainly, Schola Progenium training camps are miserable places for a cadet to spend their young life, but this relentless hardship is administered with good reason. Once a cadet has endured the rigors of one of these training camps, they will be clad in mental armor as well as physical when they fight the horrors of the wider galaxy. The Schola Progenium is designed to homogenize, break, and rebuild the orphaned sons and daughters of the imperial elite. It transforms them from frightened children into loyal warriors ready to fight and die in the name of the Emperor, or into fearsome, iron-fisted authoritarians who keep the wheels of the Adeptus Terra in motion. In the aftermaths of the many atrocities so common in the 41st millennium, any newly created orphans who are of aristocratic blood are brought to the attention of the nearest officio prefectus officials, who are tasked with dealing with the aftershocks of a battle and salvaging anything still useful to the Imperium. Many a commissar has marched through the corpse-strewn walkways of a planetary governor's palace to discover a forlorn son or daughter who has been hiding, safe but alone, in some underground bunker. The commissar, having come from a similar background, will ensure that such a child does not go to waste. Quickly and efficiently, he assigns it to a starship bound for the nearest Schola Progenium. It is even whispered that, when it is in the Imperium's best interests, the officio prefectus may steal a prospective new recruit. Sometimes a child, whose parents are still alive, may be judged to have shown remarkable qualities, and their presence on a backwater world may be considered an inefficient use of those skills, when they could be put to better effect in an imperial facility. The rumor has it that a commissar will ensure that such resources are allocated more efficiently, even if the protesting parents have to be removed from the equation in order to do so. Children arrive at the vast Schola Progeniums at a range of ages. Some come when they are as young as 6 Terran years, while others are as old as 12. Most inductees are orphaned in large groups following a single planetary disaster, though occasionally individuals are thrown into larger groups if it is convenient. New recruits undergo a series of mental and physical examinations, but this is solely for the benefit of the facility. Should the cadet have been gleaned from a planet on the wrong end of a plague or spiritual rebellion, then the last thing the drill abbots would want is for that same corruption to break out within a confined, isolated complex and savage its young inmates. Cadets are divided by age to form training groups that will ultimately, in the case of the Militarum Tempestus, form the basis of their full battle regiments to maintain a sense of brotherhood. Group sizes can start off as large as 200 at any one time, though those who would not make worthy servants of the Imperium are quickly weeded out and are not seen again by their classmates. Whereas the Astra Militarum is made up of soldiers from a huge number of different cultures, the progenitor of the Schola Progenium are not permitted cultural variety. Though they may arrive there from different worlds, they are quickly recast in the same imperial mold. As a result of this, they can be relied upon to put the orders of their superiors first and foremost before any local loyalties. So that the Schola Progenium becomes their sole reality, cadets are taught to forget their old existence. They are stripped of their former clothing and of any belongings they may have brought with them. They are issued only with simple black uniforms and standardized equipment and training gear, which they are expected to wear and use throughout their training. Recruits are forced to abandon their birth names and are instead provided with a new one chosen from a long list of legendary heroes of the Imperium. This is as much to remind them of the excellence to which they must aspire as it is to remove their identity. One exception to these traditional processes is when siblings arrive. They are not deprived of their familial connections, as these have been found to encourage greater competition, as well as fostering stronger internal ties in the long term. Such uniformity is easier to accept for very young students than it is for those who have spent longer in their parent cultures. But mindscaping is always necessary to facilitate the commitment to the ways of the Schola Progenium. Sometimes, for habitual prejudices, this clarity of thought can be achieved by simple techniques, such as repetition of litanies for weeks on end. However, at some point every cadet is strapped down to an iron chair known as a correction throne. Needles are then inserted through the rear of the cadet's skull, and their heads are flooded with dirus, a neurochemical fluid that cleanses their synapses, wiping away old memories and paving the way for new information. It is an unfortunate and little discussed fact that the Imperium possesses ever-dwindling stocks of dirus, and it is increasingly being diluted with more dubious substances. While cadets endure such treatment, autovox servo skulls relay righteous speeches, war cries, or simply inspiring quotes from ecclesiastical texts to properly and irrevocably infuse them with the wonder of their new creed. Sadly, even the Schola Progenium's mindscaping techniques are not infallible. Dreams and visions from previous existences will haunt some recruits for the rest of their lives. A scion may never fully rid himself of the nightmarish visions that linger from his home world, or the trauma of the death of his parents. As with all such matters, the Schola Progenium's methodology goes unquestioned. However, it is always a concern when a cadet shows too strong an unwillingness to properly conform. As reward for their independence, they are often released into the training grounds only to be hunted down by their former comrades. This serves as much to bond the remaining cadets as it does to punish individuality. If a cadet publicly disobeys orders, they will meet a spectacular and very public end, courtesy of a drill abbot's great hammer. What little remains of their spine is coiled within a glass box and mounted within the dormitory to serve as a warning to others. This is not at the extreme end of remedial punishments. In the Schola Progenium facility on Brelex, the products of one incident remain forever enshrined. Due to a faulty batch of mindscaping chemicals, a whole year group rose up against the dictates of their masters. The seething Abbot Prime ordered the Officio Prefectus to crush the rebellion. While still alive, the mutinous cadets were meshed with mortar and used to line the Schola's ferrocrete walls. To this day their bones jut out of long corridors, grasping for freedom, as a warning of the consequences of insubordination. Schola Progenium training may be considered a drawn-out form of torture. Indeed, injured limbs or broken minds are hardly uncommon. Cadets undergo basic physical drills in heavy armor, quickly tiring them out as they scale walls or squeeze under razor wire. A cuff from the drill abbot's gauntleted hand and the sight of his great hammer is usually enough to encourage a lethargic cadet to try harder. Military exercises with live ammunition are conducted in the harsh landscape surrounding a Schola Progenium or on nearby moons. Cadets are often expected to endure days in the wilderness with little food or instruction and limited weaponry with which to combat whatever violent creatures they encounter. Instruction and supplies are limited in order to improve their performance. Their speed and endurance increase. They scale walls previously thought impossible to overcome, and it becomes obvious to even a novice drill abbot that true warriors are being forged. It is a strong belief within the Schola Progenium that from the hottest of fires, the strongest bonds of brotherhood are born. Whatever the technique, this tutelage serves to better divine what path a cadet is suited for, as well as preparing them for the brutalities of the 41st millennium. Indeed, the training regimen within the Schola Progenium exists not just to create highly skilled combatants. Amidst the trials and challenges, the drill abbot will constantly assess and reassess as to who will make an excellent Tempestus Scion, an excellent Commissar, or who would be better suited within the Adeptus Terra. However, some scholars use more esoteric methods of selection. For example, the Abbot Prime of the Schola Progenium facility on Sanctus Omega is a known reader of the Emperor's Tarot, and uses the mystical cards to steer his judgment or decide upon a cadet's path. Technically, no one role is considered more prestigious than another, though commissars are generally held to be the most redoubtable of the Schola's trainees. Each graduate has a highly specific role within the Imperium at large, and such skills need to be discerned well in advance of the trials of compliance, the most important stage of a cadet's time at the Schola Progenium. Each Schola Progenium employs one or more challenges to separate those who will become commissars from those who will join the Militarum Tempestus. These tests take diverse forms, but the primary purpose of all such trials of compliance is to highlight those cadets who are best committed to obeying orders in adversity, and test how they process those commands. Of course, a percentage of the supplicants fail in their allotted task. Many end up as equerries or thralls of the Schola Progenium. Some of these disappointments may work through their sentences as menials and eventually be permitted to join the regular Astra Militarum. Ever eager to prove their worth, these few may yet become imperial soldiers in their own right. For potential Tempestus scions, trials of compliance may involve live fire exercises in the hallucinarium. In endless labyrinths, cadets are constantly exposed to strange visions and false suggestions. Yet the prospective initiates are expected to follow the correct orders without hesitation, no matter how strange those orders may be, and no matter how monstrous the entities they come up against. There are timed physical tests too, such as scaling the grand facade of the facility, whilst constantly chanting that particular Schola Progenium's motto. Should the candidate's incantations slip out of sync from the metronomic tempo of the servo skull hovering nearby, the cadet may soon have gunfire to contend with, in addition to the high walls. The Ordo Tempestus is amongst the most rigidly codified of all imperial organizations, for its men form the backbone of the Astra Militarum. Though the Ordo is technically a sub-faction governed by the Adeptus Administratum, it enjoys a far greater amount of autonomy than the regiments that often fight alongside it. The Ordo's ranks are primarily comprised of commissars and Tempestus scions, though they have often included specialist factions mysteriously absent from imperial records. In every theatre of war across the galaxy, the Ordo's men work alongside the incalculable might of the Astra Militarum, their elite training complementing the sheer manpower of the Imperial Guard. If the Ordo provides the rigid skeleton of discipline that holds the Astra Militarum together, it is the commissars who are the minds of the operation. The Officio Prefectus governs and controls the regiments of Tempestus scions and Imperial Guardsmen alike, ensuring that their military force is put to the right use in the Emperor's name. All commissars are trusted to improvise new orders on the battlefield, a rare privilege in the rigidly controlled structure of the Imperial war machine. But it is only the most senior of their number, known as Lord Commissars, who are truly independent. They are warriors of great personal charisma, and they will often inspire the men by leading from the front rather than from behind the barrel of a bolt pistol. The Tempestus scions do not form the main body of the Astra Militarum, for that duty falls to the regular Imperial Guardsmen. Instead, they can be likened to a knife, a thrusting point of lethal force that is applied with shocking speed into the foe's weakest point. Many a grinding war of attrition or extended campaign has been brought to a dramatic close by a strike force of Tempestus scions. More often than not, their insertion, mission completion and extraction parameters are all accomplished on the same day. As well as being the elite wing of the Astra Militarum, the Ordo Tempestus is the training ground for the Imperium's finest operatives outside of the legendary Adeptus Astartes. It works alongside the Schola Progenium, whose facilities are governed by the Ecclesiarchy, to provide key imperial institutions with the best recruits the galaxy can provide. The Schola Progenium takes a constant influx of war orphans from the embattled worlds of the Imperium of Man. These young individuals are officially known as Progena Novum. Mindscaped, schooled and trained to an almost inhuman degree, those who pass their trials of compliance and make it past selection day are then split off to serve in the different organs of imperial hierarchy. The majority of these cadets are assigned to the Schola Tempestus, where they complete the grueling training necessary to become Tempestus scions. The death rate amongst each year group of recruits is high, for the Schola Tempestus is as merciless as it is efficient. After 3 years of intense physical and mental conditioning, those who survive their training are assigned to a scions regiment and join the Militarum Tempestus in earnest. From that point on, they are issued with the very best of equipment and resource the arsenals of the Ordo Tempestus can provide. In return, they are expected to give their lives in the service of the Imperium and to obey the orders of their superiors without question, no matter the horrors that confront them. Only those progenitor with the strongest minds and most unshakable resolve are given the chance to join the officio prefectus. Assuming they can prove themselves able to put aside such ephemeral concerns as humanity and compassion, come selection day, these prospective commissars are assigned to the Schola Prefectus. There they spend several years learning the finer points of the Imperial Creed, the Tactica Imperium, and even sections of the Codex Astartes. Once each of their spheres of knowledge is complete, they will be given the uniform and authority of a full member of the Officio Prefectus. Entrusted with a bolt pistol, the holy instrument of authority and vengeance presented to all of their brethren, and frequently given a power sword for close-quarters fighting, the commissar is ready to instill discipline and strike the fear of the emperor into all those within the Ordo Tempestus and without. Female cadets who show both physical aptitude and a burning faith in the emperor will be sent to the Adepta Sororitas via one of the bodies that govern their ancient orders, the Convent Sanctorum or the Convent Prioris. It is there that the sisters in training learn the secrets of the mechanical wonder that is power armor, and how to wield the holy trinity of bolter, flamer, and melter. Males who take the creed of the emperor into their heart and evince an almost supernatural degree of faith will instead be requisitioned by the Adeptus Ministorum. Some of these find themselves seconded to Astra Militarum regiments, much like their commissar contemporaries, whilst others bolster the Adepta Sororitas, go back into the Schola Progenium as drill abbots, or even lead armies of the faithful in their own right. To join the Adeptus Ministorum is an honour beyond measure. From amongst their ranks, the most devout leaders of the Imperium are born. Individuals of a more scholarly bent, as well as those whose minds are suited for the grinding tedium of clerical and logistical roles, will instead spend the rest of their lives in the Adeptus Terra. Each trained adept has not only an exceptional mind, but also a solid grasp of the military arts due to his time in the Schola Progenium. On those rare occasions that insurrection breaks out in a data slave compound or pedanticum complex, the prospective troublemakers may find themselves choking on their own heretical pamphlets, or with their brains dashed out by the bookish but unexpectedly violent overseer they had previously thought of as easy prey. The most secretive of all the organizations that recruit their agents from the Schola Progenium is the Emperor's Holy Inquisition. Powerful beyond measure, the Inquisition takes only those who excel physically, mentally, and spiritually. Though these prodigies join the ranks as acolytes under the province of a more senior inquisitor, the canniest and most capable of their number will become inquisitors in their own right. Theirs is the right to change the course of history, to send entire battle groups of the Astra Militarum and chapters of the Adeptus Astartes into the fires of war, and even to consign fully populated planets to oblivion should they deem it necessary. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment below.